Hanako, the girl in the third stall. The air inside the abandoned school clung to my skin like wet gauze. Decades of dust motes swirled in the beam of my flashlight, each particle a tiny witness to what I was about to do. I shouldn't have been here, not just because the building was condemned, its floors sagging with rot, but because I wasn't a student. Not anymore. And certainly not a girl. But the legend didn't care about rules. Hanako-san of the toilet, they whispered online. Knock 3 times on the third stall. Ask if she's there. See what answers. I'd laughed at first. Another dumb ghost story, like Bloody Mary or the Candyman. But then I found the old yearbook in my grandfather's attic. A black and white photo of the school's 1954 class, their faces blurred except for one girl in the back row. Her uniform was darker than the others, her smile a gash of white. The caption beneath was scratched out, but someone had inked a single word in the margin. Hanako. And now here I stood, flashlight trembling in my grip, staring at the girl's bathroom door on the 3rd floor. The wood was blistered, the once white paint peeling like sunburnt skin. A rusted metal sign hung crookedly. No entry. Danger. I pushed the door open. The stench hit me first, not the expected reek of stale urine or mildew, but something sweetly putrid, like rotting fruit left too long in a sealed jar. My stomach lurched. The beam of my flashlight skittered across cracked tiles, a row of sinks stained orange with rust, and 3 stalls with doors hanging like broken teeth. The 3rd stall's door was different. It was newer, not modern, but replaced decades after the others. Its wood unnaturally smooth under layers of grime. And it was red, not painted, but stained, as if soaked in something dark that had seeped into the grain. I stepped closer. My sneakers stuck to the floor with each step, peeling away with a sound like tape ripping off skin. The air grew colder, my breath puffing invisible clouds. This is stupid. Turn back, but my hand was already rising. I knocked 3 times. The sound was hollow, wrong, like tapping on a coffin lid. Hanako-san. Irashai masu ka? My voice cracked. Silence. Then a wet guttural click, like a tongue unsticking from a dry mouth. The stall door creaked open an inch. Blackness yawned beyond it. Not empty darkness, but a thick black like oil. Something glistened in the shadows. A strand of hair? A finger? My flashlight sputtered, a child's whisper, so close it brushed my ear. Yobideshita, you called. The flashlight died. In the pitch black, the stall door slammed open, and the dripping began. The darkness swallowed everything. No light, no sound, just the rhythmic drip, drip, drip of something thick hitting the tiles between my feet. My breath came in shallow gasps, each exhale frosting in the sudden, unnatural cold. The flashlight was dead, its plastic casing slick under my fingers, as if coated in oil. Stumbled backward, my shoulder slamming into the row of sinks. The impact sent a jolt of pain up my spine, but I barely registered it. My ears strained against the silence, listening for movement inside that stall. Nothing. Then a wet, shuffling sound, like a body dragging itself across the floor. The scent of copper bloomed in the air, metallic and cloying. Blood. Old blood. The kind that lingered in places where terrible things had happened. My legs refused to move. Fear had rooted me to the spot, my pulse hammering so loudly, I was sure whatever was in that stall could hear it. A giggle cut through the silence, high-pitched, childlike, but wrong. Too guttural, too wet, as if the throat producing it was half filled with fluid. It didn't come from the stall. It came from the mirrors behind me. I whipped around, my back pressing against the sinks. The row of mirrors was fogged over, the glass clouded as if steam had risen from the now dry basins. All but one, The center mirror was clear, and in its reflection, I saw her, a girl no older than 10, stood where I should have been staring back at myself. She wore a tattered red skirt, the fabric stiff with age and something darker. Her blouse was yellowed, the collar frayed, the sleeves too long, swallowing her hands. Her face was a blur, not like the photo in the yearbook, where her features had been smudged by time. This was deliberate, a smearing of her features, as if someone had dragged a thumb across wet paint to erase her, but her grip on my shoulder was solid. I felt it before I saw it, her fingers pressing into my skin through my jacket, ice cold and too strong for a child. I jerked away with a strangled cry, spinning to face the empty space behind me. Nothing. The lights flickered once, twice, then steadied, casting the bathroom in a sickly fluorescent glow. The water was gone. The floor was dry, but the tiles were streaked with muddy footprints, small, child-sized, leading from the mirrors straight into the third stall. The stall door stood wide open now, inside. The walls were scribbled with names, hundreds of them, some etched into the paint with fingernails, others carved deep with a blade. A few were fresh, the ink still glistening. At the center of the chaos, sitting primly on the toilet tank, was a wooden doll. Its face was painted with a serene smile, the cheeks rosy, the eyes wide and glassy. But its head was twisted backward, the neck bent at an impossible angle, the hair, real human hair, tangled and matted with something dark. A whisper brushed my ear, so close I could feel the chill of breath that shouldn't exist. Play with me. The sinks turned on full blast, the pipes groaning as water, black and thick, erupted from the faucets. It spilled over the edges, pooling on the floor, rising fast. I lunged for the nearest sink, my fingers slipping on the rusted handles as I tried to shut them off. The water was freezing, the smell rancid, like stagnant pond water left to rot, and then I saw it. A tiny hand, bloated and gray, fingers tipped with broken nails, clutched the drain. It flexed, then vanished beneath the rising flood. The black water surged over my shoes, its icy tendrils seeping through the fabric, clinging to my skin like the touch of the dead. I staggered back, my breath ragged, my pulse a frantic drumbeat in my throat. The hand was gone, swallowed by the flood, but the memory of those broken nails scraping against the porcelain burned behind my eyes. The sinks continued to gush, the water now ankle-deep, its surface shimmering with an unnatural sheen like oil under moonlight. Strands of long, black hair floated atop the current, twisting into grotesque shapes before dissolving into the dark. The doll on the toilet tank hadn't moved, but its head had. No longer twisted backward, it now faced forward, its painted eyes wide, its lips parted in a silent scream. The rosy cheeks had darkened, the color spreading like bruises. And then it blinked. A slow, deliberate movement, the glassy eyes rolling toward me. I recoiled, my back hitting the bathroom door. The wood was damp, spongy under my palms, as if the rot went deeper than the surface. The giggle came again, this time from inside the stall. High, girlish, but layered with something guttural, a wet, choking undertone that made my stomach twist. The mirrors behind me fogged over completely, the glass wetting, droplets streaking down like tears. All but one. The center mirror remained clear, and in its reflection, the girl in the red skirt stood beside me. Her face was still a blur, her features smeared, but her grip on my arm was solid, her fingers digging into my flesh with bruising force. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Her head tilted, the blur where her face should be shifting, as if something beneath was struggling to take shape. The water reached my knees now, the cold seeping into my bones, weighing me down. The doll's head twitched, its gaze locked onto mine. A whisper, this time from the stall, the words slithering through the air like a serpent. You're next. The lights flickered, the bulbs popping one by one. the darkness pressing in. The last thing I saw before the blackness took me was the doll's smile, widening, stretching, splitting the painted wood as something inside it began to laugh. The laughter followed me into the darkness, a sound like splintering wood and breaking glass. When my vision returned, I was no longer in the bathroom. The walls had peeled away, revealing a cavernous space with dripping stone walls, the air thick with the scent of wet earth and rusted metal. My knees ached from kneeling on rough concrete. My hands braced against the ground, fingers splayed in shallow, stagnant water. The third stall stood before me, its red door now a warped, rotten thing, barely hanging on its hinges. The names carved into its surface pulsed faintly, as if breathing. Some I recognized from old missing persons reports I dug up during my research. Others were fresh, the wood still weeping sap like blood. The doll was gone. In its place sat a small wooden box, its lid slightly ajar. A faint, rhythmic thumping came from inside, like a heartbeat muffled by layers of cloth. I shouldn't have touched it, but my hands moved on their own, my fingers brushing the carved symbols along the box's edges. The moment I made contact, the lid flew open. Inside lay a collection of teeth. Children's teeth, some yellowed with age, others still pink at the roots. Nestled among them was a single tarnished coin, its surface etched with a symbol I'd seen before in my grandfather's attic. The same mark had been scratched onto the back of Hanako's photo. The water around my knees rippled. Something was moving beneath the surface. Slow, deliberate, circling me like a predator. The giggle came again, this time from directly below. The water distorted the sound, making it bubble and warp. A hand burst from the depths, fingers clamping around my wrist. Not the bloated gray hand from before. This one was small, delicate, its skin porcelain white, and it was pulling me under. The water closed over my head, shockingly cold, filling my nose and mouth before I could scream. I expected darkness, the crushing weight of the deep. Instead, I found myself standing in a sunlit classroom, the air thick with chalk dust and the faint scent of citrus cleaner. Children's laughter echoed from the hallway, high and bright, untouched by fear. A mirage. A memory. Not mine. The desks were old, their wooden surfaces scarred with initials and carved hearts. At the front of the room, a teacher wrote on the blackboard, her back turned. And in the corner, hunched over her notebook, sat a small girl in a red skirt. Hanako. Not the blurred, monstrous thing from the bathroom, but a child, her dark hair tied in neat braids, her shoulders rounded as if trying to make herself smaller. The classroom door burst open. 3 older boys sauntered in, their uniforms immaculate, their smiles sharp. "Hey, Hanako," the tallest sneered, snatching her notebook. "Writing love letters again?" The others laughed as they tore the pages, the sound like bones snapping. The teacher didn't turn around. No one ever did. The scene shifted, the classroom melting into the girls' bathroom. Hanako stood before the third stall, her face streaked with tears. In her hand, a pair of scissors. The coin from the box glinted on the floor at her feet. She looked up, her dark eyes meeting mine across the decades. "They never listen," she whispered. Then the scissors flashed. I gasped, water spewing from my lungs as I was yanked back into the present. The bathroom was freezing, the tiles slick with frost, the air thick with the metallic tang of blood. The coin lay in my palm, its edges biting into my skin. The third stall's door hung crooked, the names on its surface now glowing a faint, sickly green. A soft thud came from inside. Then another. Something was knocking from the other side. Not the playful raps of a child. These were heavy, deliberate, the sound of something much larger testing its confines. The sinks turned on again, The water this time, a viscous red, swirling with strands of hair and flecks of bone. A shadow moved beneath the stall door, too tall, too thin, its limbs bending at impossible angles. The giggling rose to a shriek. And then, from the corner of my eye, I saw it. The cat. Black as pitch, its fur matted with mud. It slunk from behind the toilets, its milky eyes fixed on the stall. Its mouth opened, revealing rows of needle-like teeth. "Run," it hissed. And for the first time, I did. The hallway stretched before me, endless, the walls pulsing like living flesh. The floor buckled underfoot, the linoleum peeling away to reveal rotted wood beneath. Behind me, the bathroom door slammed shut, then burst open. A flood of black water surged into the hall, carrying with it the stench of decay and the sound of a child's laughter, now twisted into something guttural, enraged. The cat darted ahead, its tail lashing, its body flickering in and out of sight. "Follow," it yowled, its voice too human. I ran, my shoes slipping on the wet floor, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The walls were changing, the plaster melting away to reveal layers of older construction beneath. Newspaper clippings, missing posters, photographs of children, their faces scratched out, and names, hundreds of them, scrawled in every imaginable medium, paint, ink, blood, all leading to one door, the principal's office. The cat stopped before it, its fur standing on end. "She remembers," it whispered. Then it was gone, and the door began to open on its own. The office was frozen in time, a perfect snapshot of the 1950s. A heavy oak desk dominated the space, its surface littered with yellowed papers and a single rotary phone. The walls were lined with filing cabinets, their drawers slightly ajar. And at the center of it all, seated in a high-backed chair, was a skeleton. Its fingers were curled around a rusted pair of scissors, its skull tilted as if listening. A nameplate on the desk read, "Principal Takeda." The cat reappeared, now perched on the desk, its tail flicking. "He was the first," it said. Then it lunged, knocking over a framed photo. The glass shattered, revealing a class portrait, the same one from my grandfather's attic. But this time, I could see Hanako clearly. Her face was bruised. Her smile was broken. And in her lap, hidden by the folds of her skirt, was a single blood-stained coin. The coin in my hand grew hot, its edges searing my skin. The skeleton's head creaked toward me, its empty eye sockets fixed on my face. "She offers you a choice," the cat purred, its voice now a chorus of whispers. The filing cabinets rattled, their drawers sliding open to reveal rows upon rows of tiny wooden boxes, each one labeled with a name, each one containing teeth. "Join them," the cat said, gesturing to the boxes. "Or free her." Outside, the water rose, the sound of splintering wood echoing through the halls. Hanako was coming, and this time she wouldn't stop at the door. The first bell rang, its peal shaking the walls, sending cracks spiderwebbing across the ceiling. The skeleton collapsed into dust. The second bell, and the boxes slammed shut, their contents rattling like hail against glass. I clutched the coin, its surface now burning, the symbol glowing red. The third bell never came, because outside the office, in the flooded hall, stood a line of children. Their uniforms were tattered, their faces blurred, and at their head, her red skirt dripping, her smile too wide, was Hanako. The cat hissed, its form twisting, elongating, until it stood on two legs, its fur melting into a tattered teacher's kimono. "Time's up," it whispered, and the door burst open. The school stands empty now, its halls silent, its bathrooms dry. But if you listen closely, Just as the bell rings, you might hear it. The sound of a coin hitting the floor, and the giggle of a girl who's finally won.